life took me to like so many different paths. And just now, I think that I'm learning where is my purpose and what I'm good at.
What do you do for business?
I'm a tech entrepreneur. So anything related to digital products. Like for example, I'm creating now a product called Seneca, which is a stock market product like a Robinhood, but for Latinos. But underneath it, we use blockchain technology. So we're tokenizing the assets so that people can invest in it easier. So like through local banking and also through crypto. So like USDT, USDC. I'm not sure if you heard of those. Are you into crypto?
No.
Okay. Cool.
But
We're in it for it, right?
make the case to me though, because the only reason why I'm not participating in it is just because I don't know enough about it. So, I mean, feel free to convince me.
Yeah. So the way I learned it was back in 2016. I remember actually an American guy called Ira Miller. He hired me to create the first Bitcoin or blockchain conference here in Panama. And that was when I started learning about all of these concepts like blockchain, what was a hash, mining, Bitcoin. Everything was so new to me. Like it took me, I don't know, at least like 3 to 6 months just trying to understand all these things that we're talking. It was like they were living in the future. And they were even talking about like if I will mention like dollar, like getting paid in dollars, they'll get mad. Like, no, you have to start thinking in Bitcoin because that's the future. And in the future, people are gonna start using Bitcoin as a means of like exchanging value, like paying each other. And that was back before the boom in 2017 when it hit almost 20K. And that's when a lot of people came into the ecosystem because they wanted to invest and get quick money, basically. The ones that really stayed in the ecosystem were because they had a different perspective and they learned it from more of a technology standpoint and different use cases within the blockchain. And that's where I learned it from. So in 2017, I created one of the first crypto communities here in Panama called the Blockchain Space. And we're now 500 members strong. It's a small community still, but I feel that now in 2025, we are at the right time to start talking more about this type of technologies, because back then in 2016, 2017, it was so new. I mean, in Panama, people don't even have a bank account or a credit card. So it's like, why are you even talking about Bitcoin if people don't even have a bank account, for example? So that was my story, and that's how I started getting into this tech world. I actually come from an engineering and marketing background. I didn't know what to do in college. I just knew that I wanted to make a lot of money. So back then, when I was studying in Miami, I was very lost. I actually wanted to be a psychologist too at one point. But then my brothers called me and they're like, no, if you go that route and if you ever go back to Panama, that was like 12 years ago, you're not gonna make any money. If you go to a psychologist in Panama, people think you're crazy. So that's not gonna work out for you very well. So you have to think ahead. And I just decided to take marketing. And somehow, after I graduated from college, that wasn't working out too well for me. I was living in Miami still. And I remember one of my first jobs was at a watch company. I was getting paid very little because it was like entry-level position. And I knew I had to do something different. So I was like, I don't want to do what everyone else is doing because they don't know what to do, right? Like they'll either go into business administration or marketing. And I said, let me try becoming like an engineer, but I didn't have an engineer background. So in college, they had this special type of hybrid program, which was like a combination or a mix of like business and engineering, and told me if I pass the GMAT, which was like an engineering type of test, or like people that wanted to get into this type of fields, and I score above X amount of level, you can get into this program. So I started really hard for it, like 3 months, and I passed it for the first time. I was like amazed at myself because like I was really bad in school. And I started taking school more seriously once I went into my master's. And after that, I never really executed on my master's. Like I ended up in technology. I did engineering management, and now I'm in technology. So life took me to like so many different paths. And just now, I think that I'm learning where is my purpose and what I'm good at. Because like when I was growing up, I was this kid that I always felt very, that I didn't fit in anywhere. Because I'm Chinese, right? My parents are Chinese, and I was born in a Latino country here in Panama. So growing up here, you get the racism, you get all these things while growing up because you're not really from here or you look different, right? And then when I moved to the States when I was 12, I was this Chinese looking kid that spoke Spanish, right? And was trying to hang out with the American kids, and that was fine. But like I never really fit in, right? I went to school, a private school in Florida. And with the Latinos, I was like the cool Chinese guy that spoke Spanish. With the Chinese people, I was like, ah, you look Chinese, but you're not really Chinese. You're not really one of us. Like you don't act like us. You're different. And I was this kid that was kind of like I never really fit in anywhere, right? Because I was so different from everyone else. But I would get along with everyone, right? Because like I could speak Spanish, I could speak Chinese, and I could speak English. And so I remember back in high school, we had this like Chinese poker game and had all types of groups of friends, like Chinese people and the Asian group. That was one crew, and then the Latino crew, and then the Americans. And then in lunchtime, I wanted to play with all of them. This Chinese poker game that was really fun. So I got all of them together in one table, and we all started playing together, right? So I knew when I was like 14, 15 that was something special that I had within me. Like I could get people together, connect people from different backgrounds. So
How did you not let those seemingly negative thoughts and experiences define you, and how did you use them to your advantage?
oh man, when I was growing up, that was very tough because like changing cultures um so drastically. Like my parents sent me when I was like 11 to Miami without even me having a choice. Basically, it just happened because we had some family problems here in Panama, and that was very tough for me because I felt kind of like abandoned. I grew up with my older brother since I was like 11, but you don't really get to have your parents there with you. So you have no type of guidance. He was trying to make it in the world too. So as I was growing up, I had a lot of like liberties, and I was trying to like find myself because I felt like my family had abandoned me. And I had to develop this type of personality where I was like friendly towards everyone because like to me, my friends were like my family. And and that's how I became this type of person where I kind of had to be liked by everyone. But then obviously as you grow up, you know that that's not going to happen. You start finding your cliques, and you start developing more of a personality, what you like and what you don't like. And it affected me a lot because when I felt abandoned, like all you wanted to do is find some type of like community or like place in the world or something. Not to get philosophical or anything. And for me, it was very hard. So I was very depressed when I was a kid. Maybe I always had a smile on my face, but inside I was sad. And when I went to college, um, that started changing because I was very, very, very shy. I always been very, very shy. And I said, like, if I don't change something about myself, like, for example, if someone didn't talk to me, I won't talk to them. Like in class, I was very, very quiet. And that's when I started like something, I don't know what I saw, what I read, but something made it click within me that I told myself, like, if I don't start getting out of my shell or my comfort zone, if I don't start like speaking to people, that then I won't like accomplish much in life. So I started getting out of that shell and started developing more of a outgoing personality. I still consider myself an introvert, someone that's kind of shy, but someone that has learned the skills to be social and like be able to be more of an extrovert.
There's a lot of people that deal with that challenge. You know, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but if I had to guess, probably half the people are introverted and half are extroverted. But I think that's a major fear for introverted people is starting a business, because when you're early in a business, there's a lot of selling yourself and putting yourself out there that's required. That can be difficult for someone that's introverted. So I'm curious to understand from you, what was your process and methodology to going from being this shy, introverted person to developing the habits to be able to effectively interface with people and put yourself out there?
Listen, I was so shy that I couldn't even order something like at Applebee's. Like I had to tell my brother to order it for me, and he was like, "Just tell the waitress what you want." And I knew something had to change, and so like I started like joining these clubs, like chess club and all these like extra curriculum activities in high school and college, and that's how I started like developing more friendships and started hanging out more and more with different types of people of all backgrounds and cultures. And the more I would like learn and absorb from different perspectives and different people, I was sort of like start emulating, because you're the one, if depending on who you surround yourself with. And I was surrounding myself with like everyone like from different cultures, like Latinos, American people, Asian people. So like I had this like very sort of like hybrid type of personality where like I had to adapt a little bit. Like my core essence was the same, but like I had to adapt and change my mentality depending on what group I was hanging with. And even like speaking a different language would like change the way you think and how you communicate and your perspective in life. So that's how I started.
So this most recent venture that you're doing sounds like it's not the first business that you've had. Describe to me kind of your entrepreneurial journey.
Oh man, that in itself has been very tough. And when I first got back to Panama in 2015, I knew one thing for sure. I didn't want it to be an employee. Like my last job as an employee was in Caterpillar in Miami. And I was there for like 2-3 years. And I was earning, as a 25-year-old kid, pretty good income. And I had this nice apartment in Miami. I had like the bachelor lifestyle, but I was so depressed in the sense that I was earning good money, but I couldn't wait for the weekend to go out with my friends and drink and go out to eat and hang out, because I didn't really like what I was doing. So the money wasn't really something that was making me happy, like, or at least not at that time, right? And when I came to Panama for family reasons, I knew that I didn't want to go back to that corporate world. It was everything was very hierarchy based. Like even if you had no freedom, you had to ask the boss of your boss, even if you wanted to do like a change, like a small change or something. You had no like autonomy. And so I knew that I wanted to be like a digital nomad. I wanted to work remotely because I had experienced that already, like a hybrid mode with Caterpillar. And I knew I didn't want to work for anyone else, but I didn't know anything about like business. I didn't know how hard it was gonna be and all the challenges. And one of the first businesses that I tried to make here in Panama was a ticketing platform for people that wanted to go to the countryside, and like an e-commerce ticketing platform. And that didn't really work out. I even won like some awards from Senacid, which is like a governmental entity that gives like grants for like entrepreneurs. And later I found out there was like a lot of like red tape in how things work in certain countries that stop you from doing what you want to do, even if you have a good intention to help the country and develop something that nobody else is doing. You find out the hard way along the way, because there's forces outside of your control. Like, people know they don't want you to implement a system, for example, because they use cash, and they want to keep it that way because they're laundering money, in a way. And this type of things made me realize immediately, like, you can't, like, an idea is not enough. You have to really like see it at a local level, how it works. And it's not just about the idea. It's about first finding out if people want it, right? Because I will do a lot of like research with like customers or like potential customers, and they're like, no, we won't use this because we're already used to going to the terminal and just buy the ticket there and wait in line for like, I don't know, 30 minutes and whatnot every day. So sometimes the idea is good, but like the people are not ready to use it. And also like there's other forces external to what you're trying to do that will stop you from doing it. So that was like my first sort of like realization that I was like, man, this is not gonna be easy. And after that, that's when I started getting into Bitcoin. When I got hired for the creation for the organization of the first crypto conference here in Panama. And once I started delving into that world, I realized how much I love technology. Like, that was my passion since I was a kid. I've been in so many different industries, like e-commerce, maritime services, engineering background, right? Business administration and marketing background as well. And the one thing about like Web3 and crypto is that there's always something new, something exciting in it. And it's like, at least in my part, I'm always at the edge of everything, of the technology part. So that's what always keeps me like interested. Because I guess I'm a guy that gets bored really easily. And for me, it's like the only thing that has kept me there on my feet has been crypto, specifically, Web3 and Bitcoin.
So you said in the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, you were faced with some challenges that come with being an entrepreneur that you were unaware of. What do you think are the biggest challenges that every entrepreneur has to go through and has to face that someone that's outside of that world isn't aware of?
Oh man, I think habits and consistency and like taking care of yourself. Like an entrepreneur is sort of like an athlete. And like, if you don't have your shit together, um like for me, for example, at the beginning, I'll get pulled so many ways because like people wanted to work with me, like, hey Juan, why you enjoying this project? I had this amazing idea, and I had this other guy. Like, since I was always surrounded by so many people and I was connecting with so many people, creating these opportunities for myself, right? I will always get pulled towards other projects. So at one point, I found myself like juggling between like 8 different projects and my own project as well. So I was like, this is not gonna work out. Like, I don't have enough time to develop any of this. So I had to like come to a point and a realization that I needed to be a bit more selfish and start saying more no's. And just instead of people pulling me to them, I'll pull them to me. But I didn't believe in myself. So I think that was one of the first things, like developing good habits and taking care of myself and also believing on myself. It was a big thing. Like, I still struggle with it until this day, like that imposter syndrome. Um, and I didn't know about that since like recently, like there's something called imposter syndrome, you know? And that was probably like the key thing for me, like realizing that whatever I wanted to develop, it was also important, and that I had to say no to everything else to make time for myself and take care of myself first and what I wanted to do.
What are the habits that you've adopted within your own daily life that have been the foundation of your success and your peace?
Oh man, I think being very conscious of your thoughts, that's the first thing. Like, well, that didn't come like right away. Like, I had to like do a lot of work, like inner work, like meditation, spirituality, um, even ayahuasca. And so for me, it's like watching my thoughts, like how do I think? Like how do I speak to myself? I think that's super important. And how do I feel also, like on the daily basis, because it's a thought and feeling as well, right? Like, how do you feel and what are you thinking? And for me, it was like developing better ways or frameworks to like help myself think better or have a better mindset. And also like eating healthy, just the regular stuff, like working out. I'm not working out right now, but it's something that, I need to implement. But it's a process, right? Because it's not perfect. You say to yourself like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start eating healthy, and then 6 months down the road, like something happens, and I think it's fine, because it's a constant process of like becoming better. But if you look back like 5 or 10 years, you're like a totally different person. I think then you've done a good job.
So you also spoke about, like, as a kid and even in college, dealing with a lot of depression. What has been the key to having more happiness in your life?
The key to having more happiness in my life, I think, doing what I like. Because I was this type of kid that would relate to so many people. I would always listen to what other people had to say and not really listen to myself. And so I will always sort of like I mentioned, get pulled to their projects and to their vision and to their world. But I wasn't really like listening to what I wanted. And what I wanted was to connect with people. Like, I felt like that was my purpose. And so during that path, like, you might think that whatever you're doing is what you want, but sometimes it's not really what you want. It's what other people told you that you want, that you made it yourself, that you made it something into what you want. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so like that takes time to like really get to know yourself and diving deep into like asking the important questions and knowing yourself to a level that you're like, okay, this is trusting that gut feeling. I think that's one key thing that made me realize that it wasn't really what I wanted, and I was kind of like, my brain was kind of like confused, because sometimes whenever you listen to podcasts or different people that you admire, you think that those thoughts are yours or they become part of yours, but they're not really yours. So you have to really do a deep dive into yourself and getting to know yourself at a very deep level.
I saw something recently and it went like, you will never get over your depression if you don't understand that the root of that depression is your conscious becoming tired from constantly pretending to be somebody that you're not. And it's that disalignment in your reality, that incongruence, that are putting all those negative forces within your life.
Yeah. And like right now, I think I'm at a point in my life where I'm 40 years old right now. And
No way, I would have never guessed.
yeah. And I really think that things are starting to work out for me. And it just happens like magic when you start doing the inner work. The right people start aligning with you, and everything just happens sure like magically, to be honest. I don't know how to explain it. But whenever you're following that purpose, or what you think is your true purpose, because sometimes it could change right along the way, things starts to align. And I think like once you align that with your business, like what's your talent, that's when everything starts making sense, and you start like living in more peace and gratitude. And once you have that frequency within yourself, that's like what Juan said, that's when the magic starts happening and everything starts coming together.
Final question. Through your entrepreneurial journey and all the experiences that you've had, what would be the single piece of advice that you would give to new entrepreneurs?
Follow your gut feeling. That was my key sort of like self-reflection, self-insight. That gut feeling, it's I think the most important thing, because you know something is not wrong. Like your body can feel it, and don't get like corrupted by sometimes your thoughts and your brain. So that gut feeling, I think, is very important.
It's really good advice. If people are interested in connecting with you or interested in your business or your services, where can they find you?
Juan X Kong, Kong. I'm on Instagram, and well, TikTok I'm not using too much these days, so just Instagram for now.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you for your time.
For sure. Nice.